Good morning, everyone. So I promised you on Tuesday that I was going to talk about the signs of auditory processing. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow because something came to my attention that I wanted to talk about today because it feels like it's a little more important, and that is how to reduce the effects of sugar and all of that overload of Halloween sweets and treats and so forth on your child's brain. And some of us don't realize the impact of that and how much it can set us back or throw things off. So just to put things in perspective, you might not be aware that the highest rate of children visiting pediatricians because of infection-related illnesses like strep throat, ear infections, colds, flus, all that type of stuff is actually highest a couple weeks after Halloween. Because if you followed me for a while, sugar really compromises our immune system. It can, just a small amount of sugar, like I think it's a teaspoon or tablespoon, can take our immune system down for approximately 5 hours. So if you're constantly eating that, like a lot of the kids that, or like a lot of kids do, I know I did when I was a kid, for sometimes a week on end, you can see why they are so much more vulnerable to getting sick. And so at a time when people are more concerned than ever with illness, you really want to address that. And I'm going to give you some ways you can do that. So number one is, I'm not saying don't celebrate Halloween. I love Halloween. I love the dressing up and just everything about it. But there's ways to celebrate it and still mitigate the effects of the sugar. So number one is you can have the Switch Witch come to visit, right? The Switch Witch is the Tooth Fairy's sister. And she will switch out your child's candy for either a gift or money, depending on their age or what they want, their preferences. And you can do that. You can talk to your kids about that today. It doesn't have to happen, it doesn't have to be something that's planned way ahead. The other option is if your kids are older, if they're not into going out, you can still make some really delicious sweets or treats, if you will, that are healthy, like paleo sweets or paleo desserts, so that they're still getting an indulgence. They don't feel like they're being deprived, which is a big part of what I talk about in my program. And they are still, they're getting that, but it's not taking down their immune system and going to affect their behavior, and they're learning the way that sugar does. And sugar and all of that stuff, the preservatives of the food dye, all that stuff has a serious effect on your child's ability to concentrate, to focus, their behavior. We often think of hyperactivity, but it goes so much more than that. When I, talk to parents in my program who have children who are autism spectrum or have learning disabilities, will tell me that they've noticed when there's an overload on sugar, the decline in the cognition, whether it's memory, concentration, and so forth. So definitely, don't underestimate the impacts of sugar. I've had clients who haven't done any other part of the program. We just start weaning their child off of sugar, and they can't believe how much their reading improves, just reading alone. So, that's for another day. But anyways, so you can make your own sweets. You can, as I mentioned, you can swap Halloween candy for a healthier version of candy. So it might not be perfect, but there's at health food stores, there's some really good candies that have stevia and use fruit juices to sweeten instead of food colorings and so forth. So maybe your child is open to that. And if worse comes to worse and your child wants to eat certain candies, but you want to eliminate some, eliminate the first thing to eliminate is the stuff that has the sugar and the preservatives and the food coloring. The next worst offender is the high sugar foods. The least worst offender is the potato chips, especially if it's plain. Yeah, okay, potatoes have like glyphosate, but in terms of worst offender, it's better that your child is eating more of the chips and less of the sweets, particularly the ones with the food coloring. So I will be talking next week about what to do to detox. I've talked a bit about that this week, but I'll be talking more extensively about what you can do to mitigate the effects of sugar if your child is going to indulge. I know this is not something that's always in your control. Many of the parents I work with, there's separation or divorce, and they maybe go to mom or dad's and they have a different approach. And so it's not always something that's 100% in your control, especially as your children get older. But keep in mind, try to be as proactive as possible. And if you can't be proactive with what your child is eating, or if you can only to a certain extent, there are ways to mitigate those effects. So wishing you all a happy and safe Halloween, and thanks for watching.